frat boys.
Yeah.
Every era, every century,
Fossilized vomit. As they say in Spinal Tap, not his own vomit. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Browns and Shedeur Sanders, the Tom Brady Trophy, and Kendrick Perkins joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with Hal Steinbrenner, the owner of the Yankees, pleading poverty of sorts. Steinbrenner, whose Yankee payroll is the third largest in baseball, is apparently worried how much money the Dodgers are spending. Steinbrenner said on the Yes Network, quote, "It's difficult for most of us owners to be able to do the kind of thing the Dodgers are doing," unquote. Wilbon, the Dodgers just signed reliever Kirby Yates after signing reliever Tanner Scott, after signing Japanese starter Roki Sasaki, after signing Cy Young winner Blake Snell. How does Steinbrenner sound to you?
I don't want to hear any Steinbrenner, anybody named Steinbrenner, whining about spending. And it's just so bad. Consider the source. If it came from somebody else, you say, okay, they got a point. Let me declare my baggage real quickly. The Dodgers' principal owner, Mark Walter, he's, among other things, a Northwestern guy, and yes, a trustee, and somebody that I've been friendly with for a time now, and I root for Mark Walter, who I know. I do. Tony, when the Dodgers were up for sale, there were people in Major League Baseball who thought the bid was going to be like $1.6 billion, the winning bid. It wound up being $2.1 billion. So, okay, Mark Walter and whatever other people are in the ownership group, they will spend, they have spent, they do that, and they try to win every week, every month, every year they want to win. And if the Yankees are whining about that, that will really put me in the Dodgers' corner even more squarely than I am.
I am going to echo pretty much everything you're saying. I love the position that Hal Steinbrenner has carved out for himself. I love when he says, and let me get the quote right, most of us owners can't do this. Most can't. You can. You're Steinbrenner.
That's right.
Just like your father did it, George Steinbrenner, when they referred to the Yankees as the best team that money can buy. You just went out, you got Cody Bellinger, right? You got Paul Goldschmidt, right, to play with Aaron Judge, and then you had signed Max Fried. So I don't really want to hear this. I am not that upset that the Dodgers are doing this. And I believe sincerely that if the Dodgers weren't doing this with the roster of names I just gave you, people would accuse the Yankees of doing this. If you want to equalize spending, if you want to try and get it under control, you have to have a salary cap. Baseball doesn't have a salary cap. And players don't want to have a salary cap. And I also think, you know, Mike, and I know you agree with this, it doesn't matter how many great players you have. You got to go through 162 and then as many as 4 rounds in the playoffs, and it can turn on one start, on one pitch.
Yes, it can.
So until the Dodgers win more than one, I don't want to hear this.
Yankees, Steinbrenner, please. Let's move to the potential pairing of the Browns and Shedeur Sanders. The Browns own the second pick in the upcoming draft and need a quarterback. Dion has told FS1 and the podcast $1 Million Worth of Game that he will privately make sure his son doesn't go to the wrong team. Now, Browns GM Andrew Berry said yesterday, quote, "I don't anticipate that being a problem," and he complimented Dion as a Hall of Fame dad. Tony, the Browns, one of those teams you think Shedeur should avoid.
So I have no idea who Dion wants to see his son go to. Tennessee has the first pick. Cleveland has the second pick. The Giants go third. Dion, as we both know, is a star guy. Maybe he'd like to see him with the Giants because if you follow Joe Namath's career in New York, not with the Giants, you understand that if you do well in New York, the entire world is open to you. Make it there, make it anywhere is what the song says. I would avoid Cleveland like the plague. I would avoid Cleveland and Carolina because their owners have proven that they are awful. The Browns ownership signed Deshaun Watson to a ridiculous contract, not just because of the behavioral lawsuits, but because when he's on the field, he isn't any good. He had the lowest QBR of any quarterback this past year. Now he's hurt. It's a second Achilles. You don't know if he's ever going to play again. When he went out the first time, the Browns put in Joe Flacco, and he got them to the playoffs. Then the Browns said, we don't want Joe Flacco anymore. We don't want him. So they bring in Jameis Winston, I believe, who they had to bench after a couple of games. This proves to me, Mike, that the Browns know nothing about the quarterback position. And if I know that, I think Deion knows it too.
Well, Tony, not exactly a shock, by the way, that you would say, oh, go to New York and skip, Cleveland. And a great shock there. You know what, Tony? I don't know. There are other things Cleveland has done. They've made the playoffs a couple of times in the last 5 years under Stefanski. So they have not been, hopeless. They haven't been hopeless. And so I'm
criticizing the ownership, Mike. I'm going after ownership, not coaching. Ownership.
Okay, but if I'm Deion and I've got the relationships I've got through football on every staff in the country, college and pro, Deion's going to do some due diligence here. And I don't know I don't know which team he's specifically referring to. Cleveland has not had a great record when it comes to quarterbacks. How far we got to go back? Bernie Kosar? I mean, it's been a long time. They're nearly as bad. No, they're actually worse than the Bears. They're in the same boat. And that can concern any father. I get it. But I don't want to just say, oh, Cleveland is a place where he shouldn't go. People might have said that about the Cavaliers. LeBron made that work okay, didn't he? So I think there's a lot more and a lot of subtlety that has to be explored before we figure out whether the Browns are not worthy of Shedeur.
Yeah. LeBron went to Cleveland because it was his hometown. Shedeur Sanders' hometown.
Still made it work.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Made it work.
Let's move. Yeah, but he had a reason to. Motivation. Let's move to Bill Belichick's comment about the name of the Super Bowl trophy. Belichick told Jim Gray on the Let's Go podcast, quote, players win games. You can't win games without good players. I don't care who the coach is. It's impossible, unquote. Gray then responded, they didn't name it the Star Trophy. It's named the Lombardi Trophy, unquote, to which Belichick said, quote, well, maybe they should name it the Brady Trophy. He won 7 of them, unquote. Wilbon, do you agree with Belichick?
I don't loudly or strongly disagree. I see his point. And to his point, the NBA, Tony, sort of created a couple of awards when you win the Western and Eastern Conference, respectively, for Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. And so that's what they've done. And there's another trophy, the Bill Russell Trophy. So the NBA has done this, and you look and say at other leagues, okay, Belichick has a point here. But I don't think you have to throw away Vince Lombardi. Just name something after Tom Brady. It's fine. Introduce a trophy. I hesitate to say this because on one hand I say don't get rid of Vince Lombardi. The Roselle Trophy could be renamed. The commissioner, not a coach. You can find something and some way to honor justifiably Tom Brady without casting aside Vince Lombardi.
Let me go to the Tom Brady thing first and then take the larger picture here. If you do this with Tom Brady, and I understand that because he's won 7, and nobody else has won more than 4. He's way out ahead. But at the moment, if he looks in his rearview mirror, he sees Patrick Mahomes. And as we know, objects in the rearview mirror may be bigger than you think they are. And if Patrick Mahomes gets to 7 and ties Brady, or Patrick Mahomes gets to 8 and passes